What's up, guys? Welcome back to Almost Functional 40K. Here today to keep diving into data sheets for the Space Wolves. I'm going to be diving into units from the Marine Codex for the Wolves. Um, most of the, I'm going to skim over some of them rather quickly. I'm only really going to focus on the ones that I feel are really important for Wolves, or get something unique for Wolves, or that are like something that you should really take in Wolves. Um, because the Marine Codex just has a lot of data sheets. So I don't want this to be a 2-3 hour video uh, with stuff that really isn't super helpful to a lot of us. So with that being said, we're gonna go ahead and jump right into it. The first thing you're gonna see is the new assault intercessors. Um, really great for wolves. Anything fast and combaty is normally pretty good in wolves. They're really great in Stormlance. I think they can be really good in Champions of Russ, Gladius, really any detachment you want to try to build wolves into. For 80 points, these guys are pretty dang good. Uh, Decent attacks, decent amount of attacks. I mean, they're not going to go kill a big tank or knight or something, but for 80 points, you can advance and charge them, deep strike them in. Good for doing actions, good for killing little chaffs and screens to get your other stuff in there. Just assault intercessors are really great. I think they should be a core unit in most good wolf units, or wolf army should run one or two of them. Regular assault intercessors, we went over that in our heavy intercessor. We went over those in our battle line video. And cursors, scout 6 inches. Since they lost their infiltrate, I'm not as big on incursors. They're fine. Another little just action unit, but I think there's better options. Infiltrators, I love infiltrators. I always take at least one. A lot of times I run two. I'm taking two to ATC. This really helps screen your backline. 100 points is a little more expensive than some of the other units you can take to hold your objectives, but they really can help just you not have to worry about your backfield objective, people deep striking in there. Because as wolves, people aren't very often going to be coming through you to get your home objective. They're going to try to drop in behind you. So having one or two squads of infiltrators to just stop people dropping in and charging, they have to drop in and try to shoot. Stick a Phobos librarian in there if you got the points, and they can't even drop in and shoot them because they'll be outside of 12, so they won't be able to shoot or charge them. It's a cool little trick. I'm not running it right now because I put those 70 points other places in my current list, but that is a really strong trick. I've even thought about running two units, both with a librarian, and just be like, you're not dropping on this back half of the board at all. And then that gives you time to send other units back to deal with that, so your infiltrators can keep holding the backfield. But I would definitely take at least one squad of infiltrators in most lists. The new demon deep striking 6 inches stops that. Other Marines with Inceptors, Grey Knights. There's a lot of armies that this kind of just nerfs what they want to do with their normal plan. And anytime you can make people deviate from what their standard plan is and have to come up with new plans, it's really in your favor. Tactical Squad, we went over in our battle line video. Scouts, really like Scouts, 65 points, really cheap. They can infiltrate, help screen stuff out. They can pop back up at the end of your opponent's turn and come back in. Really good for doing actions and just board control stuff. They're really easy to kill, so you got to be careful where you place them. Otherwise, they just die early, and then you don't really get to use their versatility in achieving secondaries. But Scout Squad's definitely something worth taking. Really love Scout Squads. Blade Guard. Blade Guard can be really, really good in Space Wolves. I'm running Stormlance right now, so I'm not taking them. But when I get into my Champions of Russ builds, once I get back from ATC, I will definitely running at least one, if not two squads of Blade Guard in some of my early builds to see how they do. Great with Ragnar, great with a Judicar. You can put a captain and a lieutenant in there, give them lethal hits and free strat, and there's lots of versatility, lots of things you can do with them. Now with the changes to impulsor and repulsor transport capacity, you can put one full 6-man squad with a character and impulsor, two full squads each with a character and a brain fart repulsor. You take a Land Raider Crusader with a 16-man capacity. You could put two full squads in there with captain, lieutenant, like there's just a lot of things you can do with them. They've got a lot of attacks. It's strength 5, neg 2, 2 damage. They have a little trouble wounding sometimes, but most of the detachments that Space Wolves take, you have access to Lance and lieutenants with lethal hits, so that can really help alleviate the strength 5 trying to wound tougher stuff. Then you have Ragnar and stuff attached to him too. That really helps get through that stuff. So I really love Blade Garden Wolves. Um, and you will see that in some of my Champion of Russ builds once I get back from ATC. Vanguard Vets uh, just aren't that good right now. They got stuck with the Vanguard Veteran weapon. It's basically like the Heirloom with Strength 5, neg 1, 1 damage. Um, Same problem our Jump Pack Wolfguard have. Uh, for the points, when what they do, I just take Jump Pack Intercessors as Jump Assault Intercessors. You really don't lose much. You can't take the Storm Shield. You lose the lethal hits, but for points, I'd just take Assault Intercessors to do the same role as this. The Jump Pack ones, Jump Assault Intercessors. Stern Guard. Stern Guard are nice. You can get the dev wounds on their weapons. I can see builds with them coming out of a pod or something. I did play around with them early, and I like them. But Wolves, for the most part, you're building a more combat heavy list, so I don't know if they fit in. But if you want to go try a more shooty Wolf list with just 1 or 2 counter charge options for combat, then I could definitely see finding a place for Stern Guard. They are not a bad unit for what they cost. Uh, they're solid. They're not amazing, but they're not bad. You can find ways to make them work. Infernus Squad. I had real high hopes for them when they came out. I thought Battle Shock was going to be a much bigger thing in this edition, the way they hyped it when before release. But with just their short range, I'm not super sold on them. You can take a 5-man or a 10-man and stick them in a transport, run up, jump out, flame something. But at strength 5 with 0 AP, I just don't really find they do that much. They are scary for like Eldar or Green Sailor called something with Overwatch, but in most matchups, I find they're a little lackluster. Like if you played Salamanders or something, they have an up, but in Wolves, I just don't really see Infernus squads being a thing. If you've run them and had success with them, feel free to let us know about that. But I just don't find Infernus squads really fit in well with Wolves. Aggressors, kind of the same thing. Movement 5. I just don't think they really fit in with Wolves. 3 attack, strength 8, neg 2, 2 damage. Their combat isn't horrible. You can put them in Stormlight or something, give them the assault, advance and charge. They got a couple shots, but losing their double shots and just getting twin linked, I just don't find their shooting is that great. Flamestorm Gauntlets, D6 plus 1 is okay. Once again, same as the Infernus. The Strength 4, AP 0 just really doesn't do that much. So I really think there's just, you can spend those points on better things in Wolves. So just not really a big fan of aggressor squads. Reavers, I figure if you're going to go Reavers, you might as well spend the points, a couple extra points, and just take Hounds of Mordecai, very similar, and you get the extra Psyker stuff. They don't infiltrate anymore. They scout 6 inches. You can give them Deep Strike, but if you want to take them, they can do like actions and stuff. But I find there's cheaper and better ways to do that stuff. I'd rather just take a Scout Squad because you're really not taking them for their damage. There's better units to take for damage. And Terminators, Terminator Assault Squad, great hammer, shield, lightning claws, but I'd just take Wolfguard Terminators. You have more options with them. You can throw in some shooting and stuff with it and mix. Same with regular Terminators. Wolfguard do just the same thing, but with more options. So I'd just take Wolfguard Terminators over either of the Terminator options for Space Marines. Centurion Assault Squad. 4 inches is super slow. That's my big knock on these guys. Their Siege Drills are now only 3 attacks, but their Strength 10, Neg 2, 3 damage. They are twin linked. They get sustained hits too when charging vehicles, monsters, or fortifications. Uh, you want to outflank them, rapid ingress them, something like that, and then try to advance and charge them, maybe, but I just find they're a little overcosted for the speed with what they do. I find wolves are better with fast, hard hitting units. So, not a big fan of Centurions. Their weapon is nice, but just getting them where you need them is the downside for Centurions. Centurion Devastators, some decent shooting, but once again, I think their price point is more than they're worth. And just the speed trying to find angles for shooting with them. Yes, if they get a shot at something, it's good, but getting them in position is difficult. So, not a big fan of either Centurion option. And Victors are interesting. I will go over them more in. I'm going to do a Dreadnought specific video because Space Wolves have such good Dreadnought options. So, I'm going to skip over all the Dreadnoughts for now. We will do a video specifically dedicated to them. Suppressors, you don't see very often. But the suppression fire is kind of nice. They do have 48-inch range, strength 8, neg 1, 2 damage with 3 shots, 12-inch move. I like suppressors. I'm not currently running any. I don't think their points are overcosted. They're not undercosted. I think they're just about perfectly costed. So how many times can I say costed? So I like suppressors. I can see them fitting in some lists. Uh, There are better options, but I don't hate suppressors. If you like suppressors, I got a bunch on my shelf. I've put in a few lists a couple times, and jumping out 12, popping off these long 48-inch range shots. They can still do actions and stuff like that. Uh, Suppressors are not a bad unit. They definitely can find some use. Outriders. Love Outriders. Super fast, super tough. Um, they're good for doing actions, helping with screening, stuff like that. And they don't hit horribly. They got 4 attacks or 5 attacks. That's great on the charge. Um, you can take the ATV with them if you want to. Go up the 6-man with an ATV, just really take up a lot of board space. But I find they work better as a 3-man. I played around with a 6-man and an ATV with a chaplain attached on a bike and gave him the enhancement to fall back and charge or fall back and shoot because he gives them dev wounds. This never seemed to pop off the way I hoped it would. Like 2 to 3, maybe 4 dev wounds, but then there's nothing else really wounded if you're going into tough targets. And when you're shooting little targets, you don't really need the dev wounds. So I just find they're better as a utility unit, just scoring objectives, blocking table spaces, stuff like that. So Outriders for what is there, 80 points, I believe, are a solid unit. Them and Assault Intercessors with jump packs kind of fill the same role for about the same price point. And if I had to choose right now, I would take the Assault Intercessors just with the ability to go through walls and just possibility of deep striking them. Uh, just I find they do the same thing as Outriders, just slightly better. Because Outriders, you're going to get 3 of them, so that's 12 wounds. Jump pack intercessors, you're going to get 5 of them. That's 10 wounds. So you do get 2 more wounds here with a better toughness. But the save's the same, and I just find assault intercessors are easier to get to the places you want. But if you wanted to take Outriders instead, that is not a horrible option. I don't hate that. I have played around with it. Invaders, I don't think you take them in the bike squads. I think it's just not a good idea. But if you want to take one on its own, it's decent shooting, it's decent toughness, good at helping score some secondaries. I have played around with ATVs, and they have actually done fairly decent for me, running 1 or 2 singles, just scoring points and killing a couple little small models and little units, helping clear chaff. So don't hate the ATVs. ATVs definitely are useful. And Scepters. And Scepters are amazing. You want to run with bolters, you want to run with plasma. Uh, I like running Inceptors, 1 or 2 squads. They're great with the 3-inch deep strike, dropping in, scoring you points. if you need to, killing a little character, a little unit. They do really well at that. Some people are running six mans and using them more for drop in damage, which they are really good at. I have other stuff doing damage in my list, so I just use them to score points. But running the six man or one three man and one six man um, definitely is useful. And scepters are amazing. They're 130 points for three, which is a little pricey, but for their ability to drop in three and just kill stuff or score points, I find they're worth it, at least one unit. But if you want to put two, you want to pump one of them up to a six man and have them be a scalpel damage unit. That is a very viable option, and these are very good units. Storm Speeder. So all the Storm Speeders, there's three of them. Let's just skim through them. They have different gun profiles. If you want to take them, if you own them, they're fine. I don't find for their points they're the best option for the things they can do, but they do have a lot of speed and fly, so they can get places a little easier than some other stuff. So if you want to take them, they're fine. I don't say never take them, but they're not something I'm really sold on. Hellblasters. So their gun is really nice. Plasma, kill yourself, get killed, reshoot. Hellblasters definitely can find some places in wolves popping out of a transport. If you want to outflank them, um, they're not the cheapest unit, but they're not crazy for what they do. So Hellblasters are fine, not super amazing. I don't find. I've run them, not super enjoyed them, but they're not a bad unit. They're definitely something people they see them, they're a little scared of them. So I can see running Hellblasters. Hellblasters are definitely a solid unit. Eliminators, another little versatility unit. They got their infiltrate, they got their repositioning, they have stealth, make them a little harder to kill, and they're snipers. So you got that precision if you need it. Or you can take the las shoes. If you're going to take them, I find take the sniper rifles, and then you give the sergeant the carbine, so that they can do the move. So you really only have two sniper shots. I find use them more for screening and scoring points, but in the mission where you need to kill a little character out of a unit, it is nice to have that versatility. And then that shoot move is nice. Um, and if you remain stationary, you can get the devastating wounds. I find on the new GW boards that isn't as easy to remain stationary and get shots on what you want to shoot. But if you luck out and get it, great. But I find they're going to be more of a scoring piece than a damage piece. But it is nice to have that precision to make your opponent think about it. Eradicators, solid. The three man, okay. But the six man, if you're running Gladius with the enhancement, is amazing. We can't take the Biologist, but you put a chaplain or something in there. Um, they're still a solid unit for us. They're better with the Biologist, but fortunately, wolves don't have access to that anymore. So no matter what detachment we take, so they're a step down than what they are in every other Marine build, but they're still a very scary unit if you have a full squad with the enhancement in there. Desolation squads are pretty much dead to me at this unit or at this point. Uh, they've just got nerfed to heck. Um, if you want to take some indirect, I'd just take a whirlwind or something at this point. Um, so definitely think Desolation aren't something really worth taking at this point. Devastators, we got our Long Fangs, which we've talked about, which are better. The Fire Strike Servo Turret uh, gives you the autocannon shot, but a 3-inch move. This is another thing where you just can't get in position to take advantage of a fairly decent gun. So I just don't see the point in taking this on GW layouts at all. The Whirlwind, with the new indirect nerfs, I don't know that you really worry about taking indirect, but if you do, his gun's not horrible, strength 8, negative 2 damage, but you're never hitting on better than 4s. You did get D6 plus 3 blast, you get a decent amount of shots. You put those at the moment on something to help alleviate the hitting on 4s. Um, park it on your back objective if you don't want something else back holding there, and just give you some plink shots down the field to help clear some chaff that's hiding in back ruins and stuff. But I find in wolves, you just drop in interceptors or something else, outflank something, and charge back to kill the stuff hiding back there. Uh, so I wouldn't necessarily take a whirlwind, but if you want some indirect, I think it is our best option at this point. Gladiators, I really like the gladiators. I'm running 2 lancers in my ATC list. So it really just depends on what shooting you want. I think the lancer is the best version. They're all the same points now with the points changes, I believe, or these might be 10 more, but they're all about the same points. This one gives you +1 to hit against monsters and vehicles. He has the multi-melta, twin las talon, um, solid. And then the lancer, this is my favorite one because you get the reroll 1 hit, 1 wound, and 1 damage. He's just got the 2 big lancer shots. Just really, because I'm running a heavy combat build, so I don't have a lot of stuff to scare like knights or land raiders, redeemers, or stuff like Grey Knight, Dread Knights. So the 2 units of these I run, or the 2 lancers I run, just really give me that extra punch up into tanks. So I really like them with this ability because with 2 shots, rerolling 1, hit 1 wound and 1 damage every time you activate them is just really nice. The Reaper, he's got the Gatling. So this is more if you already have a solution to big stuff and you're more worried about you're really elite and you can't kill chaff or horde really well. This just gives you a bunch of little shots, and then you get the sustained hits too. So if that's what you're lacking in your list, then I'd take the Reaper over the Lancer. But if you're needing the heavy punch, I'd take the Lancer. But solid units for what they cost, 160, 170 points. Um, really useful. I'd take them in a lot of lists. Um, so definitely think the Gladiators versions of Reaper. Gladiators are good for us. The Predator Destructor. This is the one with the autocannon. Strength 4, or sorry, 4 shots, 3 up to hit, strength 9, neg 1, 3 damage, rapid fire 2. You can give the las cannon sponsons. I really like the Predator. If I owned one, I'd probably run one. Um, thought about buying one. I just bought the Lancers, so they're kind of doing what the Destructor would do in my list. But definitely, Predator Destructor is a really nice option. The Annihilator, you get the twin las cannon and the las cannon. The fact that the twin las cannon is only 1 shot instead of 2 kind of knocks it down my board a little bit. I'd rather just take the 4 shots with the Predator with a little less strength and a little less AP, but I find the more shots is better. Personally, you get the reroll damage roll of 1, which is nice, whereas with the this one, you get to improve your AP when you're shooting infantry. So I just find the Destructor is a slightly better option than the Annihilator. A Vindicator. Vindicators are amazing. For 175 points, it's super tough for its point cost. The Demolisher Cannon, it has a short range, but on these GW layouts, the way you have to position to get shots, that's not as big a deterrent as it seems, because to get up around some of these buildings to get shots, you're going to be within 24 of a lot of stuff most of the time. And just with the blast, D6+3, it's good against big stuff and small stuff. Really love the Vindicator. Had a lot of success with it in a lot of lists. And you can shoot your blast weapon into combat, so it's hard to tie it up. So my other units, you charge them with the Terminator squad, they can't shoot their blast into the Terminator squad. This is still picking up elite infantry, anything that charges it. So I really like the Vindicator. This is definitely a great option for wolves. What else we got? Land Raider. The regular Land Raider, solid. Las cannons. I don't think it's the variant you take, but Land Raider is very solid. Now, the Crusader, I like the Crusader. I know everybody's on the Redeemer, but just the extra transport capacity and then all the little shots. And now that it's way cheaper, it's like 65 points cheaper than the Redeemer at this point. I definitely think this is something you should give thought to. But the Redeemer is by far the best variant, which is why it is also now the most expensive by a long shot. But the Flamestorm cannons Overwatch is just ridiculous. So I do think you will still see these in a lot of lists, having some Blood Claws or Blade Guard or something coming running out of a Redeemer is just a very nasty and scary thought for most opponents. So I see Redeemer as one of the best tanks we have access to, but at 285 points, I believe it is now, just make sure you still have enough other stuff in your list to score points. Because tabling your opponent to win really isn't super viable as a consistent plan in 10th edition, I don't believe. Repulsor, solid shooting. Now that it's got the buff to its transport capacity, I find in some lists taking it in place of the Land Raider to get your units to where you want them safely is a very viable option. It doesn't quite have the same shooting as the Redeemer, but it does still put out a lot of shots for about, I believe, like almost 100 points cheaper than the Redeemer. So definitely something to worth considering putting in your list. The Executioner, this is more of a, it can take transport a little bit. It's got decent shooting, but I just find for the price, you can take Lancers and Vindicators and stuff like that to do what it's doing better. This was for a period of time one of the most feared units in the game. Back in ninth edition, I believe it was. But right now, especially in Iron Hands, but right now, I just find there are better options for the price. Uh, Rhino, transport for non Tacticus. That's the biggest knock on it. So if you're running Grey Hunter, Blood Claws, Long Fang, something like that, Rhino could be a solid option. But if you're running more Primaris based, Rhinos kind of unfortunately get left behind. Uh, Razorback, I like these better for Long Fangs. Just gives you a little extra shooting. If you're running 5-man Grey Hunters, 5-man Blood Claw, something like that, um, I definitely would prefer the Razorback over the Rhino because it just still gives you some extra shooting on the same platform, and but it has the same problem as the Rhino as it can't transport Tacticus. Then we're going down to the Impulsor. These are really like put some Blade Guard in there, put some Assault Accessors in there. Once they jump out, you fall it back and can hold objectives and stuff. Because most people aren't going to want to put what it takes to kill this into it once it's empty, while you have more threatening things running at their lines. So a lot of times these can hold objectives, tie up little chaff units by charging them and tank shocking and stuff like that. So impulsors are really nice. I definitely like them in a lot of lists. You will see them in my early champion Russ builds. I'll then do a specific video on flyers, so we'll scroll past them for now. Drop pods, love drop pods. If you're running the Stern Guard, put them in there. Um, that's really the thing I like the best, dropping in the Stern Guard, but you could put some infiltrators in there. That's a nifty little trick. Deep strike, drop pod in and jump out and bubble off the board from the opponent's deep strikes. Um, so there are options for units to drop in and pop out of a pod. You want to put your long fangs in there, drop behind people, jump out. Uh, so pods have their uses, and the fact that you can come in, I believe you can come in turn one. Yeah, so the fact that you can drop in turn one, you get some of those secondaries that need to be over on their side of the board turn one. Surprise, I can achieve them when normally I couldn't. So pods are definitely useful. Hammerfall bunker, can't move, hate it. And that's pretty much it. So there's a lot of options in the Marine book for us that are useful. The best ones I think are Blade Guard, Gladiator variants, Land Raiders, Predators, Vindicators, Assault Jump Intercessors. Outriders are good. Uh, So you're never going to build a super competitive list just out of the index. So all of this stuff really, really helps. And to be truly competitive, I believe you need them. Uh, but I will get back later with the Dreadnought video, the character video, and the flyer video. But thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you next time.